Namaste. Welcome to my video. My name is Louisa and I'm sharing some of the things I'm going through at the moment, things I've learnt in the past from my own lived experience, and yeah, just general knowledge that I feel is available to many of us now on the planet, but we're all sharing with each other on this wonderful thing called the internet, creating a network, I suppose, a network of knowledge. So this is just my offering to that network of knowledge, and it's designed to activate, I suppose, to activate people to remember their own inner wisdom. So whatever I say is not necessarily going to be what's true for you. And with a plethora of information now on the internet, it's very important that you tune into your own truth, and that you use that as the basis for your guidance, not an external teacher. So I'm just here as a peer, I guess. In mental health, I work as a peer support worker. So that's, the idea of a peer is one of equal, and that's what we are, each of us now. I think returning to a paradigm where we're all equally sovereign, we're all equally special, we're all equally knowledgeable and all equally capable of raising our own frequency, of living a happy life, of achieving our dreams. So in the spirit of that equality, I want to share something with you today that I guess I might add to my collection of material that I call busting programs. Because the program that I want to talk today is about the program of death and the passing over onto the other side. So I'm sharing it. It's a very personal journey that I've just been on in regards to death. And I think, a while ago on this planet, I would never have shared anything like this, certainly not on a medium like the internet, which is now public and available to all. But I think these are different times. I'm sharing it to hopefully activate these abilities in other people, for each of us to remember what we're actually capable of, how we're able to connect with the higher realms, connect with what lies beyond, and how we're never truly separated from the people that we love. So this message might be a comfort to people who've lost loved ones to death, or it might be a comfort to you personally as you're facing this thing that we call death. Or it might just simply be an activation, a memory of what you're capable of in the way that you relate to the loved ones around you. So I'm sharing it in that spirit. As I said, it's a very personal story, but I really hope that it helps somebody. So without further ado, I'm going to share the journey that I've just gone on with the passing of my mother. And I'll try not to tell too many personal family details, just with respect to my family. Mum was always a very private person, and the rest of my family are as well. So I can't go into too much detail, so I'll try and tread a line of just sharing enough that's useful for people and gives you the idea. So the first thing I want to say is that, Mum died of cancer. Now, cancer is, I think it's certainly one of the top 3 leading causes of death on the planet at the moment. I think heart disease is another one. So cancer is affecting us all, touching us all. There are a lot of people who are really troubled by this, and it has some good in the sense that it's possibly waking people up to the chemical overload, the toxic overload that we're putting our bodies under, the weaponization of our natural foods, the air we breathe, our waters, etc. So it's kind of waking people up to this and hopefully pushing people to consider a different lifestyle. But cancer also, it as much as it's a very sad thing that so many people have cancer, I think on a soul level, a lot of people have I guess, chosen cancer, but not consciously in this earth body, but chosen it from a soul level, chosen it before they came into the body, agreed that this is what they were going to go through. Because cancer has benefits in that it opens up, it brings a lot of families very close when to watch somebody go through something like that, and it opens up any kind of illness really, and death passage opens up the heart chakra. It forces us almost to see life from the heart, to be wholly present with life. And one of the blessings of cancer is it allows people to pass away and say goodbye to their families in that passage of time. So, I mean, many other diseases are like that as well, but because cancer is so prevalent, I just wanted to mention that I think that's another reason why a lot of souls have got, or a lot of people have gone through cancer at the moment. So yeah, my mum went through cancer. She went through 9 months of cancer. The first thing I want to share with you is that I was given guidance from my spirit guidance about 18 months before Mum fell ill, and there was no signs at all. But I was actually informed of the exact type of cancer that she had. I was given a lot of details, and again, I won't share them publicly, but when I received that guidance from Spirit, which was probably a year before Mum actually fell ill, it was in the context of a very personal initiation that I was going through in another dimension, in a higher realm or a different realm of consciousness. So I wasn't, and it was early on in my trust, in the trust that I have in my abilities to access these realms and to trust this information that comes to me from spirit guidance. So I know it sounds a bit strange, but I actually didn't take it that seriously. I thought it was metaphorical. I thought I was being given information that would help me forgive my mum, because again, when we're faced with life and death situations, our heart chakra opens and the compassion floods out. So in this initiation in the higher realm, I was called to forgive my mum and release her from the cancer. So I guess I treated it a bit like a story, a fairy tale that was enabling me to access my own compassion, to forgive my mum and to create peace with her. And I didn't actually think that Mum would go on and get cancer. Again, I didn't fully trust my own intuitive abilities at that point, so that's why I never said anything. And I also wonder if I had have said anything to my family, whether they would have even believed me. So I didn't, and then I was quite shocked, and yet not shocked, when about a year later, the exact diagnosis and details that spirit guidance had given me a year before manifested in the physical form. Mum received the diagnosis and was told that she had only a couple of months to live. It was very advanced, and that was the start of a long, difficult journey of watching my mum become progressively ill, and a journey that we all go on, because when a family member has a disease like cancer or is any kind of terminal illness, the whole family goes with them. It's something that changes all of us. So that's what's been going on for the last 9 months in my life. So fast forward to 7 days before my mum died. And I think this is interesting because 7 is the number of initiation, and is often associated with the underworld and the passing over, transitioning, this very magical number. I think there's in Greek mythology, may have been Ishtar, the beautiful queen of heaven, who had to descend into hell, and there were 7 gates that she had to pass through, and through each gate she had to take off another sign of her sovereignty and mastery. So she had to take off a robe, and she had to take off her jewels, and all of her bits and pieces, until she was standing completely naked at the last gate, vulnerable. So this idea that we, through initiations, that we get stripped back to our raw essence, if if you can maybe hear chickens, this is my chickens come to visit me, come to visit us in the video. Yeah, so seven nights before Mum passed, I decided to try to contact her in the astral realm, and I'm going to tell you how I did it, because I'm making this video to service you, to impart knowledge that you too have within you, that anyone can do this. Now, the way that you do it might be slightly different to the way I did it, but we only have to ask often, and it will be given to us. And this is, you know, a program again. And speaking of programs, another one that's been instilled in us, that we don't have these capacities, that clairvoyancy or intuition or psychic abilities are only for these special people. Well, no, they're for all human beings. They're actually natural abilities. They're not supernatural at all. So that's why I'm sharing with you the actual thing that I did, which was that I asked my body to be filled with white light. That was the first thing I did. And the reason I did that is because there can be, especially in the beginning with this work, a tendency for interference. We can be a little bit naive and open ourselves up, our energy up, to receiving perhaps messages that aren't accurate or true, or in our best interests. So usually when I do any kind of journey work, I always ask to be protected by my spirit guides who have my highest good at heart, that are of love and unity consciousness. I made another video called Visualization for Healing the Self, in which I talk about these things in much more detail. But with this one, I just simply asked to be filled with white light. White light is a very powerful symbol, and because of my practice, it has an automatic effect of cleansing me of any negative energy potential. So in that state, I stated my mum's name, her full name, and then I said my mother. And that's important because, you know, we can't just go around entering people's consciousness without permission. But I think when you have a bond like mother-daughter or close family bond, or in this circumstance anyway, saying my mother was a way of me asking permission by way of the fact that I'm so bonded with this person. So that was what I did, and yes, I was immediately in contact with my mum in the astral realm, and I visited the astral realm for these 7 nights. Every night I went there, and again, I won't go into too much detail because I don't want to share something that belongs to Mum and myself on a very personal level, but I'll just share it generally, that for those of you who don't understand what the astral realm is, and believe me, I'm still learning as well. You know, I'm a baby shaman, a baby medicine woman. It's the next state of consciousness above our physical state, which we would call third dimensional consciousness or third density consciousness. So fourth density or astral realm is the same place we go to when we dream. It is also the same place we go to when we access our visualization powers, which is what I was doing here at night before I slept, asking to contact Mum. And it's a realm of the dreaming, the imagination. There is no time in this realm, and things, messages are given to us in metaphor, in symbol, in image. So, you know, how it came to me would be different to how it came to you. But in this realm, it was dreamlike, and I could speak to my mum clear as day, as if she was right with me. I could hear her voice. We had very lucid conversations together in this space. And over the 7 nights, I was shown this passage, this process of dying, which, you know, I hadn't appreciated before, just how much courage it takes to pass over, what it means for a soul to do that. It's as miraculous and incredible and as sacred a time as birth. And Mum had to go through some stages, and there were some funny times. There were times when she was very amused that this state of consciousness even existed and that she could be free of her body. There were times when she went through intense fear, because and this is the program that I'm hoping this video may bust, we all hold in ourselves these deep imprints of fear about death. The fear has come from a range of sources, perhaps past lives in which we've had traumatic deaths and painful deaths, when we've left the earth realm when we didn't want to, we felt it was against our will, when we left unfinished business, when we left loved ones behind. A lot of pain can be around the death experience. So there's that, and then there's also the programs that have been instilled through religion and science have done a lot of damage. Now, I'm not going to speak for all religions. I'll just focus on Christianity as one example, which was the one that I grew up with, which is pretty black and white about, you've got to be really good while you're here on earth, and then when you die, you're going to go to heaven, and if you don't do that, you're going to go to hell. And so there's this fear of what we're going to meet. We're going to be judged when we die. And as well, Christianity has taught that there is only one life. There is no such thing as reincarnation into the body again and again. So we have this sense of this is it, and that in itself is robbing us actually of all of our ancestral power and capability and understanding and knowledge that we've acquired in these different lives. So that program has done quite a lot of damage, as has the science, I guess, atheist scientific paradigms, and I'm not going to label them specifically because, of course, some scientists may well believe in the afterlife, but there has been, I guess, a trend anyway in society, and as long as I've been growing up, where the people in that camp believe that there's nothing. We're just atoms and we're inert at the end of the day, and when we die there's just nothing. So these two programs have led us to be very scared of death because it's the unknown. We don't know what lies beyond. So there's a terror there. And then thirdly, I would say that it's a really natural fear that probably would be there even if we did know what was beyond. Because I've had one particular near-death experience where I was, aware of the beauty that lay beyond me, and I was actually being beckoned by my higher selves to for my consciousness to pass through the crown chakra and exit my body. But I was terrified to do it. I was so scared of leaving the known. So that may well just be a natural primal fear of the human body. I don't know. I'm sure people watching or many other teachers would have much more expert knowledge on that than I do. I'm just sharing what's been going on for me in the last few weeks. So this fear. So I saw this fear that Mum had, and how her soul was kind of stuck, like she wasn't ready to pass over. I saw her fear of leaving people behind and how she had to work through that and process it. And I believe that she only left the planet when she felt sure, when she'd been given a sign that her family were going to be okay without her, that we had all unconsciously even given her permission to go. So for me it was conscious and I had given her permission, but for other family members it was unconscious because they didn't want to let her go. But she must have received some sort of sign to know that they would be okay. So there was that she had to work through. Then she had to work through her own memories of childhood, so forgetting about the latter part of her life. We went through her early part, and I got to really understand what it felt like to be Mum growing up. I felt it. I was allowed, I guess, to access those records, those memory records that she has, and see some details about her life as a little girl, and mainly how it felt really was the main thing. Very sad and very alone. A lot of sadness in Mum's upbringing. So that was really interesting. I also met a great-grandmother ancestor who came to me one of the nights, and this was one night where I didn't actually see Mum. I just went with great-grandmother, and she took me on a kind of a guided tour to meet my mother's mother, as a child, and to see what that house was like and that life was like. So they were little glimpses and pieces and fragments of memory that were coming to me to help me make sense of my mother in totality, in her whole experience. And yeah, for whatever reason, maybe so I could make this video. Most profoundly, the last night, after I lost contact with Mum, so on the 7th night, and this one I think is really interesting too. The Mum was now ready to die, but she didn't know how. So she came to me in the astral realm and sought my advice, and it wasn't calm. She was actually quite frightened. Again, I won't go into the details of what we then did together, but I can summarize it by saying that the body may be ready to go, but the mind has to be soothed into surrender. So there has to be a moment where the person actually consciously, the ego lets go. Now this is a little similar. I think we have a mini death every night when we go to sleep. Every night we allow our bodies to sink into sleep. The ego lets go and we go into the dreamscape. And so it is with death. It's just on a grander scale. So Mum had to find a way to let go and feel safe. So we did that together. We kind of, I've done a lot of work on myself as well as with working with other people on creating mental safe spaces, how to feel safe, and a kind of, so we found a safe place, and we also created a ceremony for Mum that she would do in her imagination in the astral realm, which would then help her to passage through to death. So she did this, and then the next morning, which was her plan, she passed away. Or she actually slipped into a coma, and then she died 24 hours later. But in that time, when I tried to visit her in the astral plane, I was shown the river Styx, which was my spirit's way of saying, you can't touch her right now. She's, the river Styx is the Egyptian mythology of when a soul is dying or passing over, they have to cross the river Styx in a boat, with the guides of the underworld or the soul caretakers. So I was shown that Mum was on that stage, and I think that was the coma period that she was in. Another interesting thing that I think might help people too was at one point Mum's soul appeared to me in my vision as glowing red, and I asked Spirit, why is this? And Spirit explained that it represented her physical suffering, and at that time it was corroborated by the fact that my father shared with me that my mum was actually in some pain, and they'd been giving her some painkillers. And Spirit explained to me that the suffering of the body is to help the soul be released. So sometimes, if the person isn't entirely willing and is frightened of death, a suffering is created to kind of force the soul to evict, because it's not so much the soul, it's more the ego, it's the mind, it's the small part of the person, it's the human part that is hanging on, that is so scared. So the suffering can create this situation where they go, well, I don't want this, so I'd rather go there, I'd rather pass over. So that was shown to me as well, which I thought was really beautiful, because this information, I'm hoping, provides context for what somebody's going through. And also, if you have to sit at the bedside of somebody who is passing away, to trust that there is a magical, alchemical, awe-inspiringly beautiful process that is going on in the heart and mind of that person. And that you're not just watching someone sleeping, they're actually going through a sacred act, they're going through a sacred initiation. And I feel incredibly blessed that I was allowed to witness my mum's soul initiation to the other side. It was just such an honor, and also brought to me, once Mum had passed, a deep deep sense of peace. I grieve for my mum, and I'm very sad that she's not here in the physical anymore, and I'm very sad that she won't be visiting me and hugging me and speaking to me. But I do now know that her consciousness lives on, and she's very close. And yes, I did try to contact her after she died, and I was invited to see her higher self, her higher aspects, which are free and happy and, understand all of this thing that we call life. Passing our consciousness in this earthly life is squeezed into the tiniest little package you can imagine. It's kind of like looking at life through a toilet roll or maybe even smaller, and thinking that that's all there is. So once released from the body, boom, the greatness of all that is appears to the person. It's like a light comes on and all is revealed and all is okay. So despite grief, there can't really be too much sorrow, because I know Mum is fine and happy, and occasionally I was also shown after she died that, if I want to converse with her higher self, that's possible. But if I want my mum as my mum, if we want to converse with the people who've passed in their form that we remember them in, with their habits and their quirks and the way that they speak, we can have that. It's there when we ask for it. So Mum can appear as either to me, and I've been calling on not the wise higher self, I've been calling on just my mum, that special aspect that, that feels familiar and comforting to me. So we can talk to those that have passed. They are always there. There is no time and space beyond. So don't think that even because many years have passed that it's too late now to start conversing. It isn't. It never is. They'll be there. It's instant, the minute you ask for it. I think what's happened though is, our culture has taught us that we can't talk to the dead, that people who've passed over are no longer there, that there's nothing beyond. And so maybe even if we do hear their voices in our minds or our hearts, we dismiss it. We go, oh, it's just silly, but it most certainly isn't. And if you converse with that, you will find probably great comfort. You may even be able to resolve things that were unresolved in this life. So I was really lucky because Mum and I had resolved things in the earthly plane. But if we hadn't, now I realise I could just keep talking to her. It's completely fine. I did a lot of work resolving issues with both of my parents in the astral realm while they were on Earth, because we couldn't connect in the physical at that time. The communication just wasn't there. So, we're so powerful. We're so powerful, each of us, and we're so connected. We are each other. Really, all we're doing is we're conversing with another aspect of ourselves. And I know that it takes a while to practice this stuff, and I know that it takes a while to trust it. But I'm not special and amazing. I've simply trusted. I've simply been able to let go of the programming that held my ego in such a way that limited it from believing in this stuff. I've been able to let that go and cultivate trust and practice. You have to practice. I often say that in my videos. You've just got to practice this stuff. Sit down and do some journeying. Watch that video that I made on using visualization to heal yourself. It's really about shamanic journeying, journeying to the inner realms and exploring what's in there. And I think when we reconnect ourselves to these realms, then we begin to feel whole and safe in this realm. Because until then, again, the program we're being fed is that we're separate, we're all alone here, we're just matter, there's nothing spiritual, it can't be proved. Well, my story is proof that the spiritual is real. Spirit is real. The subtle realms are real. Yeah, so that's my story, and I hope, again, as always, that it helps someone out there, just reminding you what you're capable of. So trust it. If you've had any of these types of experiences, trust them, cultivate them, honour them, and share them. Tell people. Now is the time for us to share and awaken together. All right, beautiful souls. Any comments or questions, please visit my website if you like. The links are below, or pop a comment in the comments box. And take care. Namaste.